at all.
Is you niggas mad at all?
We the ones cracking, and you niggas out here trying to make it happen.
My name is Leo Victor Smith, and they call me Pretty Boy from the 60s. I grew up in LA. I was born in New Orleans, but I grew up in LA, and I used to stay on the east side. A lot of people didn't know that. I used to stay on 76 and Wadsworth, second house from the corner next door to Raymond Washington. And then I ended up coming to the 60s, which was over there on the west side. And I lived on 67 and Western all my life, around the corner from Horseman Junior High.
What years were you on the east side?
Well, that was in the early 70s. And that's where I met Raymond, tell you the truth, Raymond Washington. Mm-hmm. His mom's Viola, his brother Gerard, you know. And it's funny that one of the homies, Ron, he was like 5 years old when I seen him. And we used to play with him at the edge of the porch. Didn't realize he was gonna be my cellie 20-something years later. But I met Raymond, he was coming out the house, and I just moved over there. And he walked up to me, and he said, who are you? I said, I just moved next door. He said, I'm Raymond Washington, leader of the Crips. I said, okay. You know, I already knew who he was, right? But I didn't know I lived next door to him. So every day, he used to always see me, pull me by my shirt collar, by my shirt tails, and say, what you doing, little nigga? And you know, we had kind of got a good rapport. And he got me out of an incident one time. I was actually shooting at a CO2 rifle, shot out some neighbors' windows. They wanted to come beat my ass. So Raymond walked out of there, right, and said, hey, you got a problem with him? And they backed down. And I'm kind of glad because, hell, they was like 5, 6 years older than I was. Hell, I was only about, probably 120 pounds dripping wet. So that's how I got my rapport with Raymond. Then I ended up moving to the west side on 67 and Western, going to 74th Street School. And that's where I met all the old homies now, that a lot of us did go to 74th Street School. A lot of them went to 59th. Then a lot of us went to Horseman Junior High. And like, it was a trip because all the 8 trays in the 60s that went to Horseman, we was all friends, but nobody didn't know what the future held between all of us. Nobody didn't know that we were gonna be the most tightest gangs in LA, and the most strongest gangs in LA, being the most violent later on gangs in LA towards each other, you know? And it's really sad that's how it happened, but it is what it is, you know? You can't predict the future.
Did Raymond Washington have any influence on your cripping?
Yes, he did. Raymond Washington did have a lot of influence on my cripping because I'm gonna tell you something what I liked about him. He wasn't no punk. He wasn't on major swole, but he had a nice build on him. But he'd get down with anybody, anywhere. That's what I liked about him. And that's what I admired about the guy because, I mean, he had this attitude. He didn't even have to say nothing. All you had to do is just look at his face and you knew he meant business. And it hurt you too. But the last time I actually seen him, before he was killed, 1979 June. We had a funk festival in the sports arena? Coliseum? It was a funk festival. All the major funk groups showed up. And that was the last time all the major Crips, before everybody started warring with each other, that's the last time we was all together as one, right there. By then, Tookie had already caught his case. So everybody else was there. That was the last time we all seen each other. And that was about the last time I seen Raymond. Then August 79, he ended up getting killed. And I seen everything getting ready to go bad. After my homeboy Tyrone, Big Rick's brother, got killed, I didn't know that it was gonna go from bad to worse to extremely worse. But I remember it like it was yesterday. And we thought that it was gonna end with just give us the guy that actually shot him and it was gonna be over with. We didn't know it was gonna turn out like it did. And a lot of guys ended up going to prison, getting killed behind that. A lot of homies that got killed back then, a lot of young homies now don't even know who they are because it was so long ago. Back then, a lot of us was using fists. A gun barely came out. It rarely that you had to use a gun because everybody was fist fighting. But when everything went wrong with us and the Eight Trays and the war got out of hand, it was like an arms race. Everybody had to get something that shot more than 6 times. So after the arms got secured, the hardest part of that war, and nobody never really talked about this, the hardest part of that war was trying to shoot at a person, right, that you grew up with.
Who were some of your first childhood friends on the West Side?
Well, my first childhood friends on the West Side going to school was Shyster, Mumpy, Doe-Eye, Moncrief, Huey, Babyface, Joe Rat, you know, Lunatic Frank, Pie Face.
Was it any older guys that stood out that you might have looked up to?
Now the older guys that was already over there, you had Michael Conception over that way, you had Cutes, his brother Rusty Mouse. Then me and Cutes ended up hanging out later on, right? Until he ended up falling to his case. And then you had, then by then Tookie had moved over there. He had moved over, he was staying around in the area of 79th around Dinker. And
69?
yes, I mean not 79th, 69th and Dinker, around there. And so like I said, you had, who else? My boy Skody, Big Skody, rest in peace. And a lot of people don't really bring up Skody's neck because he was killed a long time ago. But he was another one I looked up to. That was my boy. He stayed around the corner from me. And so you had, like I said, you had a lot of guys over there, right, that made me, I guess, it was like an influence, because later on in life, I fed off that influence. And just like all gang members, right, you want to be number one. And I strive to be number one, no matter what it was.
When did you start running with the gang members on the West Side?
Well, in Horseman, that's when I started really being active. You know, that's when I started really being active in the Horseman. I went to Horseman started in 72, 73. But that's when I started being active back then. But like I said, everything was reduced to just graffiti, fist fights here, fist fight there. And that was it, basically it, you know.
What was your Horseman years?
My Horseman years, like I said, I think it was 73 to 75, I think it was. Then I ended up going to Crenshaw.
What was your relationship like with the Eight Tray Gangsters?
Now with the Eight Trays, we all was tight. A lot of people don't know how tight we were back then. Like, we all had a small crew, you can say, together. It was like me, Shyster, Mumpy, Doe-Eye, Rick and them. And the main ones we knew was like Hunchy, Sidewinder, you know, Rayford, that's Sidewinder. Who else? You had Baycott.
How significant was Sidewinder to the Eight Tray Gangsters?
Oh, Sidewinder, he was very significant because he wasn't no punk. He was out there. Yeah, he was out there. He wasn't no punk at all. He handled his business accordingly, you know. But he was one of the main players. You know, I knew all the main players from the Eight Trays back then, you know, that had a name and they built up their name,
So
know.
When did you meet Monster Kody?
I met Monster, actually, I met Monster's brother. We went to Horseman together. And it's funny that it was me, his older brother, and Daryl Ransom, who we call Hoover Sam now. We all was friends in the 7th grade. A lot of people didn't know this. And Monster was a couple of years under me. So he was kind of like real small then. So by the time we met and he started kind of hanging around me, he didn't have his size on him, he was still small. You know what I'm saying? But I already seen, right, that he was getting ready to make an image for himself back then. And me, him, my brother and all, we all became kind of close. But the thing about it is I already seen what was getting ready to go down with him. And he didn't make a name for himself. I got to give him that. And me and him ended up being real close as friends.
I mean, why do you say you knew what type of guy he was going to be?
Because you can basically talk to a person, right? You can talk to a person. If you're not slow and you read the mentals of a person, you can talk to that person, right? And see where that person is going down the line. And I could see the way he was talking that he wasn't going to try to be no buster. He wasn't going to try to be no buster. He was going to make a name for himself. But like all of us back then, right? Everybody had to create their own individual name for themselves. He made one for himself. I made one for myself. You know, he made his out of brutality, beating up people. And I made mine, you know what I'm saying, fist fighting. But my reputation came from behind a Tommy gun. That's what everybody knew me as, you know, knew me for doing. A Tommy gun, a Thompson.
Where did you get the name from?
Watching all them gangster movies. You know what I'm saying? I used to like, you know, everybody said, oh yeah, you trying to be Pretty Boy Floyd? And I was like, hey, you know what I'm saying? Nobody else got this name right now. So I rolled with that one. And like you can say, that's what really got me in a lot of trouble later on down the line. But me and him started running together. And before you know it, when everybody started slowly separating, as I stated before, when the time came for us to actually go at it with each other, it was hard. Because for one, a lot of people don't know, us and the Eight Trays, we all went to school together, so we basically all knew where each other lived. So that's dangerous when you fall out with another set and everybody know where each other live. Because you don't have to wait on no street corner. All you have to do is wait for them to come out their house. And when the war got really out of hand, I guess everybody said, hey, one day we're gonna have to eventually shoot at each other or actually shoot each other. So one day, like I said, New Year's Eve, Monster was shot at Western Surplus.
All right, let me stop you for a minute. Let's go back to junior high and you having a friendship with Monster. Was you guys tight or?
No, we were tight.
Okay, you and Monster was tight. What did y'all used to do for fun?
Take people's money.
What about bicycles?
Take bikes too, because he was on a dirt bike. I got to give it to him. He was the baddest person on that west side on a dirt bike. A boy would bunny hop over the front on the front end of a car. But he was bad. But we used to do that, take bikes, take money, you know, punk people, beat them up. We all catch the bus up to the Fox Hill Mall when it first opened up, jack people for money. And we used to do all types of stuff like that.
When the 60s and Eight Trays ran together, who did y'all bang against?
Oh, when the 60s and Eight Trays actually ran together, then we was fighting the Inglewood families by then. We was fighting the Inglewood families and we was fighting the V&Gs by then.
So, at any point, did you and Monster side by side fight or get into it with the Inglewood families?
No, me and him, we never fought side by side.
Okay.
Yeah, we never fought side by side. You know, he had his luck. Like now, you have little cliques that run together. He had his little clique to run together, and just like me, I had my little group we ran together. But for side by side, we never did. But we used to, like I said, we'll meet up and we'll talk and kick it and things like that. You know, matter of fact, we ended up dating half of the three or four women that I ended up dating, he ended up dating.
So when the war kicked off, how did your friendship work out then?
This is the thing about that friendship when the war broke out, and this I always say this before. It was a thing we used to say back in the days, giving each other a pass when we caught each other. And because it was hard, like I say, to draw down and shoot somebody that you actually ran with, you know, and did stuff with, whether it was bad or good, to just sit up there and say, I'm gonna shoot you now. So we used to give each other passes. Okay, well, next time I see you, or next time I see you, or hey, look, you know, just leave him alone. But I knew eventually them passes was gonna stop. You know, and that was the sad part about it, because it kind of hurt me, because I said eventually one side is gonna stop giving passes. And eventually somebody's gonna get shot. So when we all finally like got it out of our system about the passes, that's when we started shooting at each other.
I'm from Slauson, where shit get drastic down here. Fuck a room, go to sleep in a casket. I'm from Slauson, where shit get drastic down here. Fuck a room, go to sleep in a casket. I'm from